Okay, we are going to come back together and go over this assignment. So your um, table of contents looks like this. Can you guys all see my table of contents?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. What we're going to do is we're just going to read through it and fill in the blanks as we go. So talking about Russia, and the first section was on the rise of Russia, and it talked about the geography or the location of Russia. So there was a large plain that stretched across Eastern Europe and Central Asia. Okay. And we call this area the steppe, and that's the plain that is grassy and mostly treeless. Okay, so not a lot of trees. And then you have another natural boundary, and the Ural Mountains, which serves as a boundary between Europe and Asia. And then on the other side, Russia is surrounded by the Black Sea. Okay. Then moving on to take a look at culture. Okay, so we have a group of people called the Slavs that settled in Eastern Europe. Okay, other groups of people in the region were the Avars, the Huns, and the Magyars. I don't know why there's an extra blank here, so just exit that one out. So these different people all invaded the region at different times, just like we saw in the video. In the video, it also talked about how Vikings from Scandinavia moved in and invaded as well. Okay, so the Slavs were the ones that settled the area, and they were constantly being taken over and ruled by different groups of people. So taking a look at Kiev in Russia. So a lot of this will be a review from the video. Okay. The leader of Kiev in Russia took control of the people and called it the Rus. Okay, and took control of the city of Novgorod. And they took control over Kiev as well as the Slavic tribes. As we know in the video and from our readings, Kiev became the most important principality or the most important city and served as the capital for 300 years. Okay. Kiev was even powerful enough to win a favorable trade treaty with the Byzantine Empire. Okay, breaking down the government in Kiev and in Russia in general. So each principality or each city was led by a prince who governed with the advice of councils made up of a group of people called the boyars. Okay. The boyars were just a fancy name for the nobles. Then you have somebody by the name of Yaroslav the Wise, who built lots of churches and introduced Russia's first, what's not how you spell churches? And introduced Russia's first law code. It's like a set of rules to organize and live by. And that was called the Pravda Ruskaya. Okay. Taking a look at religion, because we know religion becomes super important. Vladimir the First is the first to convert to Christianity. Right? And he chooses to convert to Christianity because traders and Greek missionaries brought Eastern Orthodoxy, right, or Christianity, to Kiev and Russia. So like in the video, he said like he looked at all the different types of religions and was like, hey, I like Eastern Orthodoxy. They have some cool traditions and ceremonies. So that's why he chose to convert to Eastern Orthodoxy Christianity. And then after he did that, he ordered all Kievans or all Russians to convert to Christianity as well. However, that didn't go over super great. A lot of Kievans or a lot of Russians, especially in kind of like the outskirts, still worshipped the spirits of their ancestors or gods of nature. Okay, so like with all new religion, when people convert, it takes a while to get the entire civilization or the entire society to focus on one specific religion. People are really apprehensive to give up their own religions. We know a lot about the religion from this time because a lot of the writings that came from this time period focused on religion, and they were either in the form of hymns or sermons and that were given. Artists ended up creating icon paintings, mosaics, and frescoes that were all religious based. Okay, so we have lots of text and images from this time period that were heavy on the religious side of things. Taking a look at the economy. So we know that they traded with the Byzantines, and what they ended up trading was agricultural products. Okay, so it's like food, right? Farming stuff. So these products included wood, iron, fur, and honey. Okay. In return from the Byzantines, they got goods such as wine. Those Russians sure like to drink. Silk, spices, and fruit. Okay. Taking a look at social classes. Okay, so at the top of the social hierarchy, you have the local princes and their families. Okay, they're the ones that rule, they're the ones that are in charge. Then below that, you have the boyars. Those are the nobles who help the princes make the decision. Okay, then you have your artisans and merchants, so the people that make and sell things. And the lowest group in Kiev and Russia were the peasants. And the church or the clergy members formed another social group. So the church was kind of like their own separate function. And within the church, you have a certain hierarchy that you will learn about in Unit 6 in World History B. Okay. Then taking a look at how Kiev falls. So the Mongols invaded, right? That was at like 35 or 37,000 force on horseback. Okay, they come in, they wreak havoc, they take over, and the Mongols end up controlling Kiev and Russia until the late 1400s. And so they rule in Russia for roughly 200 years. And why the Mongols wanted to take over and rule in Russia is because they wanted to gain wealth from the region. They saw it as a good agricultural standpoint. They also liked the trade connections that they had with the Byzantine Empire. An important aspect about Mongol rule was that they taxed all of the people in their society. Okay. And as long as the people could pay the taxes, they could do whatever they wanted. They didn't force the Slavs to convert or adopt Mongol customs or culture. As long as they paid their taxes, they let them do whatever they wanted. Right? They're like, sure, you keep your language, you keep your religion, you keep your customs, you just pay us money and let us make the decisions. And for the most part, the Slavs were happy with that because they didn't like being told what to do. So, like I said, as long as they paid, they could keep their own government and culture. customs. Mongols ended up building important roads, which improved the methods of taxation and communication throughout the entire empire. So all of the little principalities or all the little cities were now connected with roads. Some Mongol words entered the Russian language along with the customs, traditions, and patterns of behavior. But for the most part, the Slavs were able to maintain their own unique culture and customs and language because, again, the Mongols didn't force them to do anything aside from pay taxes. Okay, and then like in the video that we saw, we know that Lithuania and Poland are able to take over some of the territory from Russia. In Poland, the Poles ended up converting to Western Christianity, right, or Roman Catholic, right, while the Slavs remained under Eastern Orthodoxy. Okay. So because of this, the Slavs in Russia became very suspicious of Western Europe and their influence. Okay, so they're like, why were the Poles so quickly to convert to Roman Catholicism when they had practiced Eastern Orthodoxy for so long? They didn't really understand that. Okay, so suspicion continues on throughout history. Okay, wrapping up with Ivan the Terrible. So Ivan became the ruler of Russia at age 3, but if any of you have younger siblings or nieces or nephews, you know 3-year-olds are not super great at making decisions. So until he was old enough, the boyars or the nobles were actually in control. Then when Ivan became of age, he was able to successfully control the government, and he took on the title of Tsar, which means Caesar. Right, so like instead of being called a king or an emperor, he wanted to be called a Tsar. And when he was the Tsar, when he was the leader, he had a large group of secret police called the Operniki, who basically arrested all the boyars who made terrible decisions in the name of Ivan when he was younger and gave all of their lands to Ivan's supporters. So he like cleaned house. He got rid of everybody that didn't like him. And then he's called Ivan the Terrible because he ended up murdering his oldest son because he was afraid that his son would try to kill him and take over the government. So he didn't want to do that. He wanted to stay in power. So he killed him. Oops. The Orthodox Church in Russia continued to grow more powerful by acquiring land. So the more land that you have, the more money and taxes you can collect from the people that live on that land. Taxes are money, so the church was acquiring a ton of money through this. And a major difference between the Eastern Orthodox Church in Russia and the Roman Catholic Church in the rest of Europe was that Russian bishops were able to choose their own leader in the church, or the patriarch, which helped to make Moscow the center of the Russian church. Okay, so they got to essentially elect their own head of the church. And then when Constantinople fell during the Crusades, the Russians proclaimed Moscow to be the third Rome. And they thought that calling Moscow the third Rome would bring the spiritual light of Christianity, or of Christian Orthodoxy to the whole world. So they thought if they called Moscow the third Rome, it would attract people. They'd buy into Eastern Orthodoxy, and Eastern Orthodoxy would overtake Roman Catholicism to become the dominant form of Christianity. That doesn't really work anywhere outside of Eastern Europe itself. Okay. So that brings us to 1 minute left in class. All right, I will post this like answer key assignment in Tuesday folder. Okay, I will post it right down here. Then what your homework assignment is for tonight, okay, is chapter 10 and 11 vocab terms. Okay, this is your assignment that is graded for today. Chapter 10 and 11 vocab terms. You will use the World History Glossary to fill out the terms. Okay, this assignment is formative. It's due tomorrow. Okay, so again, I will post the answer key to the Russian table of contents here. You do not have to turn this assignment in. It is not graded, but you need the information because it's on your Unit 5 test. Your assignment that is graded for tomorrow is chapter 10 and 11 terms. All right. That is what I have for